Luck, that magical word we all dream about. But here's the thing, luck isn't random, and it's not just chance. It's what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Think about that for a second. Are you ready for your lucky moment? That's what we're diving into today, and trust me, you don't want to miss this conversation. And I'm not doing this alone. Joining me today is someone who's not only mastered the art of preparation, but also has the stories to prove it. Amelia, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a topic I could talk about all day, and I'm thrilled to share some insights with your listeners.
So before we get started, let me ask you this. Do you consider yourself a lucky person?
You know, people often tell me, Amelia, you're so lucky. And while I appreciate that, I always say, luck is only part of the equation. Most of the time, it's years of preparation that people don't see.
So true. We're diving deep into all of that today. Let's get into it. All right, Amelia, let's start with the basics. When most people think of luck, they think of random chance. Winning the lottery, stumbling into the perfect job. What's your take? How do you define luck?
For me, luck is about readiness. Imagine two people walking through a forest. They both come across a ripe apple tree. One has a basket and a plan. The other doesn't even notice the tree because they're distracted. The person with the basket isn't luckier. They're just prepared.
That's such a vivid example. It's almost like opportunities are everywhere, but only some of us are tuned in to see them.
Exactly. And I think that's where mindset plays a huge role. If you believe opportunities are out there and you're open to them, you'll start noticing them more.
It's almost like priming your brain, right? When you focus on being ready, your perspective shifts and you start seeing chances where others see obstacles.
Absolutely. And the more you prepare, the more confident you feel. That confidence makes you more willing to act when opportunities arise.
Let's talk about spotting opportunities. Amelia, do you think most people miss chances because they're not paying attention, or is it something deeper?
I think it's both. Sometimes people are so focused on what they think an opportunity should look like that they miss what's right in front of them. Other times, fear or self-doubt holds them back from even trying.
Fear is a big one. I think a lot of people hesitate because they feel they're not ready. What would you say to someone who's waiting for the perfect moment?
I'd say this. There's no such thing as a perfect moment. If you're waiting until you feel 100% ready, you'll be waiting forever. Preparation doesn't mean you won't have doubts. It means you're willing to take the leap despite those doubts.
That's such a good point. It's like the idea that action creates clarity. You don't always know what's going to happen, but by stepping forward, you learn and grow.
Exactly. And I think part of spotting opportunities is staying open-minded. Sometimes what looks like a detour is actually the main road to where you want to go.
That's a great perspective. Can you give an example of a time when you spotted an opportunity that didn't seem like much at first, but turned out to be huge?
Oh, absolutely. Years ago, I was working a corporate job, and a colleague invited me to help with a small community project over the weekend. It didn't seem like a big deal, just organizing supplies and helping out, but I said yes. That project introduced me to people who later became key players in my career. One of them ended up connecting me to a role that launched my business. It's a perfect example of how small opportunities can lead to big outcomes.
That's incredible. And I think it's such a good reminder that you never know where a yes might take you. But let's flip this for a second. What about missed opportunities? Have you ever looked back and thought, if only I'd said yes to that?
Oh, absolutely. One that stands out is when I was offered a chance to join a mentorship program early in my career. At the time, I felt like I wasn't experienced enough to contribute, so I said no. Years later, I realized how much that program could have accelerated my growth. That was a tough lesson, but it taught me not to let self-doubt make decisions for me.
That's so relatable. I think we've all had moments like that, but what's great is that even missed opportunities can teach us something, right?
Absolutely. I learned to ask myself two questions when faced with an opportunity. 1, what's the worst that could happen if I try? And 2, what's the best that could happen? When you focus on the best case scenario, it's easier to take the leap.
I love that mindset shift. Let's get practical for a minute. Amelia, what are some steps our listeners can take to start spotting opportunities in their own lives?
Here are my top 4. Cultivate curiosity. Start paying attention to things you might normally overlook. Ask yourself, what if? Or how could this be an opportunity? Build relationships. The more people you connect with, the more doors you open. Opportunities often come through people, not places. Say yes more often. Even if something doesn't seem like a perfect fit, give it a try. You never know what it could lead to. Reflect regularly. Take time to look back on your week or month. What moments or interactions could have been opportunities that you missed?
Those are fantastic. I especially love the idea of reflection. Sometimes we don't realize how many opportunities we've had because we don't take the time to think about them.
Exactly. And reflection helps you sharpen your awareness for the future. It's like training your brain to spot patterns and possibilities.
Let's talk about balance for a second. How do you balance being open to opportunities with not spreading yourself too thin?
Balancing caution and action. That's such a great question. It's about learning to prioritize. Not every opportunity is meant for you, and that's okay. When something comes up, I ask myself, does this align with my goals and values? If it doesn't, it's okay to say no.
That's such an important distinction. Saying yes to everything can actually dilute your focus, right?
Exactly. It's about being intentional. Saying no to something that's not right for you creates space for the things that are.
A story of an unconventional opportunity. Amelia, I know you've had some unconventional opportunities in your journey. Can you share a story about one that really stands out?
A story of an unconventional opportunity. Sure. One of the most unconventional opportunities I've ever had came from a chance meeting on a flight. I was traveling for work and ended up sitting next to a woman who was reading a book I'd just finished. We started chatting, and by the end of the flight, she'd invited me to speak at her company's event. That connection led to not only the event, but a long-term collaboration that shaped my career in ways I never imagined.
That's amazing. It just goes to show opportunities can come from anywhere, even 30,000 feet in the air.
Exactly. And it's a reminder to stay open and engaged. You never know where a simple conversation might lead.
All right, let's get practical. Amelia, what are some ways people can start preparing for opportunities, even when they don't know what's coming?
I like to think of preparation as a muscle. You build it through consistent effort. Here are a few ways to start. Set small, daily goals. Progress adds up. Even 15 minutes a day working on a skill can make a huge difference over time. Stay curious. Explore different areas of interest. You never know which skill or piece of knowledge will come in handy. Practice. Saying yes. Get comfortable stepping outside your comfort zone. Start with small things. Volunteer for a project, attend a networking event, or try something new.
I love those tips, and I think staying curious is so underrated. People often think they need to specialize, but sometimes it's the combination of skills that sets you apart.
Exactly. Being well-rounded can open doors you didn't even know existed, and the more skills you develop, the more confident you'll feel.
Let's tackle something that holds a lot of people back: fear and self-doubt. Amelia, have you ever faced a moment where fear almost stopped you?
Oh, absolutely. One of the biggest moments was when I was invited to speak at a conference for the first time. I was terrified. I kept thinking, what if I mess up? What if I'm not good enough? But I realized that the opportunity wouldn't wait for me to feel ready. I had to take the chance.
That's so relatable. And what happened when you stepped on that stage?
It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And the response from the audience was amazing. It reminded me that people value authenticity over perfection.
Such a great lesson. I think a lot of listeners need to hear that. Perfection isn't the goal, progress is. And even if you fail, you're still learning and growing.
Exactly. And I'd add that failure is a part of success. Every no or misstep gets you closer to the right opportunity.
Amelia, this has been such an inspiring conversation. Before we wrap up, what's one piece of advice you'd leave our listeners with?
I'd say this: start where you are with what you have. You don't need to be perfect or have it all figured out. Just take one step forward and trust that the rest will fall into place.
I love that. And to our listeners, remember, luck favors the prepared. Start today, whether it's learning a new skill, building a connection, or simply shifting your mindset. Your lucky moment is out there waiting for you. Thank you for tuning into this episode. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. We'll see you next time.